Hey, what's going on, Gooners, Goonerettes? Big shout out to everybody. And for those of you who are coming here for the first time, welcome to 101. Subscribe to the channel and let's get on with it. Transfer update, guys. Gabriel Jesus has been spotted and pictures have been taken with him at the Emirates, revealing the number that he is going to take. Now, the cameras spotted the word G Jesus and the number 9 when he was out at the Emirates having all of his shoots. I did report that the photo shoots was going to be Wednesday and Thursday. So over the last 2 days, he's been doing interviews, photo shoots, all the kind of media stuff. And then once that's done, they'll upload it on the website. It'll probably be tomorrow or maybe Saturday. Official fourth signing. So they've got Martinez, they've got Matt Turner, they've got Gabriel Jesus, and they've got Fabio Vieira. It's good news, guys. It's all done. It's all sorted out. And Arsenal were due back to training on the 27th. So that was this week. And they're having their meetings now and they're going through the preseason regime and the schedule. And all of that will start very soon with all of the matches that we talked about previously before. But it's great to know that 4 players are going to be a part of that. Someone else who's going to be a part of that, guys, is Hector Bellerin. Now, Hector Bellerin, as well as Lucas Torreira, although Lucas Torreira is a no-show at the moment, but Hector Bellerin has also been seen at the training ground, and he's just begging for a move. And a lot of people, I can see you guys' comments, a lot of people are saying, but he's better than Cedric. I don't think it's really that the issue is. I think the issue is towards the end of his tenure at Arsenal, he was a liability. He wasn't helping on the defensive end. He wasn't helping on the offensive end. I think a lot of the people sort of miss exactly what has happened with Hector Bellerin because of the amount of injuries that he suffered, the impact, the speed that he had, that has all gone. And he's just a shadow of the player that he was when he was at Arsenal in his prime. In my opinion, he was an okay defender. But the reason why he was doing so well on the defensive end is because he was so fast. His recovery speed was second to none. If he made a mistake, if he got wrong-footed, if he got turned, he was able to get back into position and find the right angles to defend against pacey wingers. And when the injury sort of started to take his toll upon Hector Bellerin, he had lost that. That was something that he kind of lost. And once you lose something like that, you never get it back. It just never comes back to you. On the offensive end, didn't score the goals, didn't really create the assists, couldn't find the pass in the final third. And that's something actually that Suarez can do. Suarez is a very good passer of the ball. He's probably the best crossing wide player that we have in the team right now in terms of delivering a cross into the box. And as for a defensive player, Suarez is adept at being a defender, of course, against the elite. He'll struggle, but then everybody will struggle. I remember last year when we first had the matchup against Song, and everybody was saying, oh, you know, Tomiyasu was doing a fantastic job against him, and then Suarez was struggling. Well, Tomiyasu's a boss. In my opinion, Tomiyasu is probably the best right back in the league, but I'm an Arsenal fan, so I've got a little bit of bias there. But a lot of other fans, especially on our Friday night podcast for Premier League, a lot of the other guys fail to tell me a right back who's actually better than him defensively. I know Liverpool sort of set the trends for offensive wide players and wing backs. You know, you got to hand it to them, the amount of assists that Robertson and Trent Alexander rack up. But defensively, are they actually doing the job? And defensively, are they actually better than Tomiyasu? I would say no. So for that reason, you got to feel for Hector Bellerin. He wants out. Torreira wants out. But guys, don't panic. We've got a full 5 weeks to figure this out. We've got the whole of July, and the season doesn't start until the 5th of August. So look, I just wish Hector Bellerin all the best in terms of him going back there. Isn't it funny that none of these clubs, like none of them, you look at Socrates, Klasnach, Torreira, Bellerin, I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. None of these clubs have got money to even spend 5 or 10 million on a player. I mean, what exactly is going on there? I mean, come on. It can't be that bad. We know it's bad. And we know clubs are struggling for money. And we know that. But it can't be to the detriment of you can't sign a 5 million player. I mean, how bad must your club be running if you can't save enough money to spend 5-10 million on a player? That's really bad. And we're getting into territory now where it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable for a team any team in the world at this stature to say we can't afford to spend such and such on a player. But I mean, you have Barcelona, and we'll talk about Barcelona in a minute, but you have Barcelona and Real Madrid who are both struggling. They're actually trying to let players go. All of this works onto what I talked about in my last video in terms of finances. Just goes to show you how much of a great job Arsenal have done in order to spend the amount of money that they're spending, because they've had to suffer, yeah, on the back end. They've had to set that foundation and suffer on the back end in order for them to have the kind of summer success that they're having now in the market. And a lot of teams haven't been doing that, and a lot of teams have just been front loaded by the huge, massive wage bill, which they can't shake. That reminded me of Arsenal 18 months ago. 18 months ago, we had all these players on 100 grand a week, and we couldn't shift them. And what it did is it stifled us in the market. So it was really, really good to see the plan coming forward to make that happen. But other teams haven't been so lucky. Other teams have not had a guy in there who's worked the books and figured it out. And here we are. We've got all these players that want to go and move somewhere. And it's going to get to the point where they're going to have to end up buying out their own contract. I would just go via the loan system again, because you don't really, you want to put the responsibility on somebody else and not yourself. So if they're willing to pay the Bellerin salary or Torreira's salary or whatever, then do it that way. Otherwise, let's get a little bit of cash in for it, even if it's a little piece of buck that you can help to put towards another player. Because when you get into a situation, guys, with Raphinha, where you missed out on a target because of 5 million, that's not good. And selling a player like Torreira for 10 or 15 million, his market value is 15 million euros, selling a player like him facilitates that. It just makes all of the difficult decisions happen. A lot of things still to do with Maitland-Niles, a lot of stuff to do with Bernd Leno as well. So I'm hoping as summer goes on, those things will start to work itself out. But some good news, Jack Wilshere, the club is in the middle of making a surprise return for him, but not in the way that you think. A surprise return as in not a player, but a youth coach, which is the likes of Kevin Betsy, and those have left the club. And they were in charge of the under-23s and under-18s as well. And now the pair of them went to Crawley Town to replace John Yems after allegations of racial abuse. The Gunners have started their search for a replacement. And what we have now is the academy managers Per Mertesacker holding talks with a number of candidates. And one of them is Jack Wilshere. And he's just 30 years old, guys. But it would be a surprise change of a career path for Wilshere, who last played for the Danish club, wasn't it? And that contract expired this summer. But there's an option for one more year on that deal, but the option hasn't been taken out yet. So it does mean that Jack can take the badge. We know he's been doing some coaching badges when he was here with us last summer. So a lot of that sort of really does play into it. And if he does take the job, he'll continue to develop and finish off those courses as well at Arsenal. But I think it's really good news, and I think it's something that we're all open to, and it would just be great to see Wilshere back at Arsenal in a job, working with the team that he loves, and why not? The latest news now on Lisandro Martinez is pretty good, guys. There's been 2 bids that have been rejected by Ajax. The third bid has gone in for 40 million euros, which is kind of near their asking price, and it's not been rejected. It's not been accepted yet, but it's not been rejected, so that's a good sign. I think that now they're ironing out those things, and then he'll probably become an Arsenal player, which would be number 5 before we've even got into July. That's madness, guys. 5 new buys before the month of July. That's crazy, but I love it. And I think for that, guys, it would just bring a positive note to Arsenal, because we've talked about out with the old and in with the new, and we've not made the Champions League since 2016-17, and that's when all them guys, Mustafi, Jacques, and everybody came in. And Martinez is a guy who can start at left back, he can start at defensive midfielder if you need someone to line up next to Thomas Partey, or if you need someone to take over Partey if he's injured. And that's just someone who can just play a variety of positions. And I really think it's a good buy. Again, utility man, very, very important in the squad with 5 substitutions. Tierney's hardly ever here on the pitch. So it just makes sense. And look, Tierney was 27 million. This guy's 34 million. So the question would be probably asked is he a better player than Tierney? There were times when I thought Tavares was better than Tierney last season. But then when Tierney went out, the wheels fell off, And then I kind of got to realize, you know what, Tierney is a baller, because you only notice something when a player is not there, how good they are and how important they are to your setup. And that happened with Tierney last season. I valued him much more when he went out injured, because everything's just started to capitulate and the wheels started to fall off. Without Tomiyasu, Tierney and Partey, we didn't have a clean sheet in the last 10 games last season. That's how bad things went. People can talk about the offensive side all they like, and it was a combination of everything. It was the drop off of Saka, Smith Rowe and Martinelli, the drop off of form and goals from those three, and then all the injuries on the defense. Everything just came to a head and capitulated, and that's why we didn't make top four. But what I do want to say is this step with Lisandro Martinez is just another positive step forward to Arsenal just being able to patch up all those problems that they had last season and go into this season ensuring that all the weaknesses are covered up. In the forum the other day, I had to say, guys, that I'm still sitting at 5th place. I'm going to be reserved. I'm not going to be like most of you lot who were setting themselves up for failure. I'm not going to say top four, and then if we don't get it, then just walk around like a miserable git. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to set my expectations at a level where Arsenal, last season, I thought we were going to finish 8th, and we finished 5th. And I thought, you know what? Looking at the overall year, they did well. I know a lot of people are saying they choked. They don't really understand the definition of choked, because when you look at how bad things were with us towards the end of the year, where the players were jaded and tired, offense, the young kids, they were spent, the defense were out injured, and you take all of those intangibles. Most fans don't do intangibles. I do intangibles all day long. So for me, there's always an explanation. There's always a reason. I just don't paint with the same brush when it comes to those things, which is why my opinions differ a lot from the majority of the fan base. But what I do want to say is, in regards to Raphinha, is exactly that. I've seen some YouTubers, and I'm not mentioning any names, talking about, and they're big YouTubers as well, talking about Arsenal's choking on Raphinha. You're saying those things. You're riling up the fan base to get angry and go into meltdown. That's really that's what it is. You know, those type of things that I hear from YouTubers are just making fans frustrated and more angry, and you're not really coming with any context. Yeah, you have to come with some context. That's why I have a lot of respect for some of the media pundits, you know, like David Ornstein, Charles Watson, those guys, because those guys deal with factual details. Yeah, that's what I deal in. I deal with facts, and the facts is, if you look at someone like Raphinha, there's a lot going on in there, guys. A lot going on. Arsenal right now are just taking a back step, because you've taken a back step because two different things are going on. The first thing is, the guys accepted a personal terms with Barcelona way back in March. So no matter what any team does, no matter whether Chelsea offer 75 million, Leeds can accept that all day long. If the player don't want to move, he don't want to move. Look what happened with Vlahovic. Arsenal offered 76 million. It was accepted. And Vlahovic was like, nah, I'm going Juventus. So it doesn't really matter what you do on that end. And you've got three parties now in it. Chelsea have made a bid that is accepted for the player. The player don't want to go there because he wants to go to Barcelona. Barcelona have accepted personal terms with the player long before Chelsea was in the game, long before Arsenal was in the game. And Arsenal are sitting on the fence thinking, what on earth is going on? Did we even have a chance in the player in the first place? And that's what frustrates me with what I'm seeing on YouTube with some of this stuff. Arsenal choking, Arsenal. Because no, they didn't choke. Because even if Arsenal offered the right amount, they would have still been in the situation where the player has already attained personal terms with Barcelona. So it's got nothing to do with how much Arsenal have offered. And you never go into a negotiations deal offering top dollar. Nobody does. Some teams do because they're desperate. Chelsea did on this occasion because the managers, the new owners, wanted to make a statement to the fans. You know, everyone's asking, what type of Chelsea are we going to see now? Is it going to be spending Chelsea like Abramovich, or is it going to be a Chelsea that's just going to try and manage the books? And let's be fair, Chelsea have had a horrendous time. This is why I said to you guys, you need to calm down on Pepe. Pepe was one big mistake. We've never spent that amount of money on a player. Never, ever. And we did it. And actually, he produced the goods when he played. Like I said, 27 goals. That's what I expect from a player who's coming in with that kind of momentum and cash flow. He averaged 13 goals in a season. So that was money well spent, in my opinion. The difference is the managers ain't playing him. For all different tactical reasons, I know, and I accept it as well. And if he moves and leaves Arsenal, he'll do really well with any club he moves to. But my point is, Arsenal made one mistake. One mistake for a player who cost 72 million, but his wages is only 140. Very manageable for another club if he wanted to move on. You look at someone like Serge Gnabry, very, very productive player, 300 grand a week. That's double the amount of wages that you're having to spend. But Gnabry's not the issue. My issue was when I was talking about Manchester United in terms of the amount of players they've got on 200-300 grand a week that's sitting on the bench. And Chelsea. Chelsea went out and spent 70 million on Kepa. He lasted the season. They spent 102 million on Lukaku. He lasted a season and he's gone. They spent 60 million on Morata. He lasts half a season. So when you look at all these different mistakes, guys, that is 250 million. That's a $250 million that Chelsea have paid on mistakes. And I don't hear Chelsea fans talking about them in the way I hear you guys talking about Pepe. I don't hear that. So, you know, Arsenal, we've got the tendency to be overly critical about any kind of business that we do. And like I said, the guys who did that business, they're not here. Yeah? So judge the team on what Edu and Arteta and these guys are doing. And they've made mistakes with Willian. We know we've made mistakes with, although Pablo Mari is not really a mistake because you barely paid any money for the guy. Yeah, you got the guy for 6 million. 6 million is not a mistake. A mistake is when you're spending millions. Like you spent 34 million on Willian in terms of the signing fee and the salaries and everything. And the guy left and gave you that money back. So you didn't even get burnt on William. Yeah, you got burnt on Ozil. You got burnt on Aubameyang. But my point is that if you look at the amount of mistakes that this front office had, I can count them on one hand. And financially, right now, they're in a great place. And that's covered in my last video, which you can see on pop up at the end of this video. So overall, guys, there's nothing to cry about. And there's a lot to be happy about. And the Raphinha situation, I'm just going to move on from it. If it happens, great. I don't expect it to happen because he does want to play in the Champions League. I think when the agent was talking to Chelsea and nothing's been sorted out there yet, they did say, and Leeds said as well, that he wants to move to a club in the Champions League, and that's not us. However, with Barcelona, if that deal was done way back in March, there's nothing anybody can do about it. He was never, ever our player. He was never somebody that Leeds themselves could have really submitted and sold. And nice for them to say, yeah, we can get top dollar for this player. But if the player only wants to go to one place, then your bargaining tool is going to suffer because of that. Because now Leeds are finding themselves where Barcelona only offered 30 million and Chelsea have offered double that amount. And they're looking at money. But the player doesn't want to move. And somehow that's going to have to get resolved. His agent, Deco, that's going to have to get resolved somehow. But for me, as Arsenal fan, I'd step back in that situation. I'd step back and say, look, I don't want anything to do with this because this thing's got so political right now. It probably meant that we never had a chance to get the player in the first place. And that's how I would look at it. So for all of you guys feeling frustrated about it and trying to point fingers and blame Arsenal because they lowballed the offer and they didn't take it seriously, yeah, you guys need to step off that ladder straight away and then move on to the next target because, like I said, it was never an option. I'd like to see us try and step in front of the Raheem Sterling deal. That would be nice if we could do something there, or if we could revisit Serge Gnabry and say to him, look, bro, we might not be able to pay you 300 grand a week, but we'd probably be able to do 200. You know, I would approach him and try and figure out something there because what's happening in Bayern Munich right now, that situation's not being resolved and they've just brought in Mane. So, you know, they got a guy who's going to be playing in your position. So is there still a future for you with 1 year left? Overall, it would be nice if he left on a free, but, you know, they're going to be looking for something around 30 million euros at least for him in order to move him on because, you know, they have to find a solution. But that's the whole point, guys. We're just in the first few weeks of the transfer window, and we have a whole 2 months to go before this thing finishes. So there's plenty of time for Tielemans, plenty of time for Serge Gnabry, plenty of time to go and land other targets, plenty of time for that. But if we land Lisandro Martinez, that would be our fifth buy in the first few weeks, and we'll have 5 new players to then take on to our sort of pre-season program and those games that we're going to play in America and everything, and it all looks good. But listen, that's the update from me, guys, and I'll speak to you guys soon. But thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace out.